Okay, so we are getting to our final couple of reviews now. Let's do another biggie. And this is a film that I have been excited for ever since it was announced, because I am a huge Kate Blanchett fan. And
I mean, who isn't?
I mean,
Um,
exactly, who isn't a Kate Blanchett fan? But yeah, Tar. I can't wait. I can't wait to watch this. So please tell me that it's good, Billy. Tell me it's good.
well, I don't think you'll be disappointed at all. This is being tipped as a heavy Oscar favourite, both in terms of the picture as a whole, Todd Fields' direction, Kate Blanchett's performance, potentially picking up her third best actress Oscar. Well, second best actress Oscar. She also has a supporting actress Oscar for The Aviator. This would equal her with Meryl Streep.
Two queens. Can we just appreciate those two women for a moment? Let's just a moment of silence, please, for Meryl Streep and Kate Blanchett.
Just two of my absolute favorite actresses because they just disappear into the roles that they take on. And I think like Daniel Day Lewis, they just totally inhabit the characters fully that they take on, and you utterly completely believe in whatever they're putting across on screen. So yes, a lot of heavy, and this has been scooping awards from like the critics circles, left and right. There's a lot of expectation placed on Tar, and I have to say, for me, it totally lived up to the hype, but also managed to subvert my expectations in a couple of interesting ways. It's set in the international world of highbrow, elitist classical music. It centers on Lydia Tarr, who is obviously a fictional composer. She's considered one of the greatest living composers working in classical music in the present day of the film. She's a protege of Leonard Bernstein. She's like been decorated by every award circle in the classical music world. She is one of the EGOT winners, Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony, and has played with almost every major orchestra there is. And is a central plot point in the film is that she is gearing up for her latest big concert, which I think is sort of checking off the last box on the list of all the big orchestras and residencies that she's going to lead. It also happens that even though she is clearly a total genius, she's also kind of a total monster. She's manipulative. She's abusive, she's a tyrant. The film then seeks to try and unpack that, examine the argument between separating the artist from the art. Is the way she behaves, is that kind of intrinsically linked to the way she constructs her art? Again, a meditation on cancel culture. A lot of ink has been spilled, very rightly, on how the film looks at these various topics. I do believe that even though that those are clearly very pertinent to the film, I think there's another angle which isn't necessarily being talked about enough with relation to the film's story. She's clearly, I mean, there's a central part of the story that revolves around, previous accusations of a history of, grooming and abusing, comes out about her, and she kind of feels as though people are conspiring to tear apart her life and to, suppress and destroy her next performance. I think the film really expertly walks this tightrope, deconstructing her as a character and looking at the really poisonous effect she has on the people around her, but also, I think, looking at the environment that I think creates that abusive personality and the oppressive environment of being alone at the top of that podium, and how that can mold and birth that poisonous personality. And the opening shot of Tar places her sleeping on a private jet on one side of the frame, next to an iPhone, which is her assistant speaking to a friend, who kind of says, oh, you're still getting along, you're still getting along, no, she's doing this and doing that. Again, this look, the conflict between the public's perception of her and who she really is as a person. And I think there are, this tug of war between, artist and critique of that artist. And I think there are several aspects of Todd Field's direction that just display masterful precision in unpacking the duality of that subject matter. The insular and icy tone he's able to conjure, shrouds us in the oppressive grip and feeling that Lydia radiates across every space that she's in. The film shot in 239 widescreen, and most angles utilize the full capability, of that ratio in showing the vastness and heft of the spaces and the auditoriums and the classical, music venues and opera houses that she operates in, and the rehearsal spaces, with these extreme wides. I think they can simultaneously be shown as presenting the weight and overbearing nature of her presence, and how her volatile personality completely fills that space, but also how alone she is, how isolated she is. There are also dialogue scenes where, they're filmed with these kind of sharp diagonal angles. For me, they were placed in this adversarial context. Lydia Tarr is talking to like a rival, in one case played by Mark Strong, and they're sort of, verbally sparring almost, if, they're trying to one up each other. Like, this is a battle. It's a verbal battle at this sort of restaurant table. It's almost as though, she is so heavily scrutinized that she becomes bitter and volatile. And
I've just realised that we've got double Mark Strong on the
yes, we
podcast
do
today.
have a
He's also
we
in
do have a
Nocebo.
we do have double Mark Strong. I mean, in quality wise, a completely different ends of the spectrum. But yes, these kind of like these very kind of, she becomes very hostile and very defensive in these scenarios, and these kind of very, very wide static shot. I felt the scrutiny on her, even in sequences when she wasn't being interviewed or wasn't being deconstructed by. The film begins with a very, very long interview sequence, and even past the scenes where she's being analyzed and deconstructed by people she works with, members of the classical music community. I felt like that the eyes were on her even when she was completely alone. At the center of it all is this extraordinary performance by Cate Blanchett. The rapid fire barrage of her pretentious artistic statements to prove her genius and assert her dominance in the conducting world are incredibly demanding. These very, very long-winded monologues, very captivating. She delivers them with such vitriol and the attention-grabbing nature of like a drill sergeant. And the very fact that she's a conductor emphasizes that need for control as well. She reaches for the rafters in several scenes, these ruptured outbursts of caustic criticism of the people in her orchestra, and also students when she's sort of doing workshops at universities. When she's conducting the orchestra in a rehearsal, her movement and physical command is rapturous. It's as though the music has taken complete control of her, as though she's possessed, her body contorting and flailing around, as overcome with emotion from the music and that determination to win. And though she's taken into another state of being. These muscular moments of performance are greatly impactful, but it's her subtler pieces of acting that really complete that performance for me. She's such a tyrant and so monstrous in so many other scenes, but take an abuser and make her empathetic and make her nuanced, and make it so that in some ways I do think she is a bit of a victim. I think that there's a debate to be had there, but I do feel as though it's not just as cut and dry as she ruins lives. I think the industry and the situation she's been put in have done a lot to shape that. The quiet, tortured moments of introspection she has, the trepidation in an early scene, before attending an interview where she tries to muster a lot of confidence, the gradual crumbling of her composure, and flashes of a person who does seem genuinely loving and compassionate in some brief moments, and I think so cohesively and mesmerizingly in a way that I utterly believed every part of her performance and who she was, to be able to weave through those various layers of an incredibly complex character and sell all those facets of inhabiting the same person and elicit empathy in a character who is at times incredibly unsympathetic. I think in my mind, as much as I love Michelle Yeoh in Everything Everywhere All at Once, I think the consensus is that she is going to clinch Best Actress, and she absolutely deserves it. I mean, this, in my mind, is the most impressive feat of acting I've seen this year by a mile. And yes, just the really sophisticated way that Todd Field doesn't give us the easy answers. I mean, so much of the storytelling is, again, just this passive camera and the way it kind of presents the environment and her perception of it, and Cate Blanchett's performance. I think we're encouraged as viewers to deconstruct that scenario for ourselves. And I think that makes it a really, really fascinating piece of filmmaking. Also, just the way, we are almost as perplexed as her when people start to peel away from her life, as though we have been brought into her obsession so vividly, we're almost kind of like we didn't notice when people left and sort of fed up and had enough. And that's really powerful as well. I think easily one of the best and most impactful films I've seen this year. It also doesn't, despite its very deliberate pace, it doesn't feel its 2 hour and 35-minute runtime. Just fantastic. I think I've put it in at my third favorite film of the year. I think, rating wise, I think I would give it my esteemed sought after A+ rating.
Handing out A pluses so early in the game, Billy. It's episode 1.
Well, episode 1, yeah. I hadn't occurred to me actually, but
Already
I
giving
think
out those A pluses. Well, high
I think
praise
there
indeed.
have been a couple this year. But I'm sure we'll be talking about them maybe when we come to round up the Oscars and also my best of the year list.
We've got time